this is Skinless, the guild leader for the Alliance Guardians, and today we're going to be looking at the unlock all the way through 7-star of the Falcon. So for this event, what you're going to need is specifically a few different options as far as for ships. Now, you're not actually going to use any of your capital ships here that are listed. You're only going to be able to use the bounty hunter ships, so Houndstooth, Xanadu Blood, IG 2000, as well as Slave 1 for the event. So even though it has those extra requirements there, just know that you're specifically using the bounty hunter ships in this one here. So we're gonna go ahead and go to the event and start off with tier 5. As far as for your capital ship, you are given the Darth Vader's capital ship, which is not something actually used in the game, but it is essentially a rebrand of Tarkin's capital ship. So abilities remain the exact same as far as for how they work. So as long as you're familiar with the executrix and how the mechanics of that works, you're in the same exact boat for using the Devastator. So you cannot change the capital ship, as you saw a second ago. But as far as for your lineup goes, there's a few different lineups that could work. I just prefer to use my Houndstooth up in the front, along with using IG, and then I also tend to throw a Slave 1 in there. The reason I'm doing this here is we're going to be looking at reinforcement abilities. So if I pull up a Xanadu Blood, I do enjoy the fact that once he enters the battle, he inflicts breach on the target enemy for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resisted. Additionally, inflicts the defense down on all enemies for 2 turns, which can't be evaded. So you get some extra buffs in there, and some debuffs on your enemy. Breach is really what makes your fleet go. So what breach is going to be a subtraction of 25% armor on your enemy, as well as negative 25% resistance, so they're going to be more susceptible to attacks of any form, whether it's special or basic, as well as whenever Houndstooth is active, they also have the subtracting 25% evasion. These also will deal with the kits of the ships here. So if I went back into Xanadu Blood here and we take a look at his basic, let's see, so there's no extra buffs in there, but he does have that chance to inflict breach. Let's see, so, and if we have target lock on the field, we also get a breach there. So there's some extra bits there, but let's see, if we go down to IG 2000, I do know that his basic, as long as the enemy is breached, then you get to attack again, which is also great. As far as for here, it's just going to be talking about extra damage to breached enemies. So it's just some extra bonuses that you could see as you're going along. Houndstooth has his just general basic, as well as, let's see, so just inflicting breach. So breach is just going to be one of those debuffs that you can use to your advantage to get extra damage out there, as well as some, like I said, the evasion too. So Slave 1 doesn't have really anything that goes along with breach, but does have some target lock abilities, which is nice, as well as you get the target lock from the Devastator. So that's kind of the things you need to know. We're not going to go too deep into the kits, because these are things that you can definitely take a look at, and I definitely recommend it if you're working on your fleets, to kind of understand how these ships work. But I want to give a basic just so you kind of know where we are starting from. So I always end up starting off with the Rebel Pilot. As far as for their abilities here, they've got the defense penetration up, so you have to be aware of that because they can do some extra damage. I tend to start off with getting the breach over here on this side, and then I'll use a basic to go through and attack twice. Now, in this case, it's tier 5. It's not necessarily going to be used, but it's something that is going to come in handy later on. So now we've got a target lock out there if we needed it, which also helps us some of the other abilities. Just like Tarkin's ship, we could use his basic and deal the tenacity down if needed. There's also going to be the ability right here where we've got the cannon, which has the ability block, which is great. And then the chance to inflict expose. So we'll go ahead and we'll use the AoE here to also damage the Falcon and get some ability block there, which is nice because we don't want the Falcon while he's hiding to be doing extra damage or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and go forward here. Since he's not breached, I would use his secondary ability here, which is going to be adding the stun, which is nice, and getting, let's see, he's already got the target lock, so don't need to worry about that. As far as for other ability, other buffs that are on here, we can take a look at that if my thing will work. Let's see, come on, there we go. So he's got the defense penetration, he's got the protection up, and then he's got the taunt. But luckily he's got the target lock on there as a debuff. So we'll go ahead and first off stun him, so he can't really do much. If there was another ship on the field, I might have tried to move around if I could, to try to attack other things, since I can use this ability here, which is going to allow me to attack all ability blocked enemies, or not ability blocked, target locked enemies. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and use this basic. And I can go ahead and I can call in a reinforcement here. We're going to go ahead and call in the Xanadu Blood, which is going to inflict the breach, which is perfect, and the defense down, which is exactly what we were looking for. And then we can just go ahead and use our basic here. If there were multiple enemies on the field, or I wanted to try to get some assists or anything out there, I could have used the secondary ability, but we'll use that a little bit later on. So let's go ahead and jump into tier 6 and kind of show you how it creeps forward as far as our power goes and gets you to the next spot there. I've tried a few different lineups here, but this is just the one that has worked best for me. Not every ability or not every round is going to work the same for everybody, but I tend to use the exact same tactics each time, and it tends to work really well. Looks like Breach did not stick there, which is really unfortunate, so I'm going to go ahead here and try to still stun the rebel pilot. And we're going to go ahead and jump back over here and try to get some ability blocks. So see, they've got some really high tenacity going on right now, it looks like. So that's a little unfortunate that we're in that boat. So we're still in a good spot though, as far as for how this match can go. If this were to happen on tier 7, we'd be in a bit more world of hurt, I would say. So let's go ahead and call him in, and there we go. So it looks like he doesn't even have breach on him, which this ability here cannot be evaded. Well, his return. So it looks like they're actually, I've noticed this a few times where there has been, I believe, a bug where the ability isn't working as intended, which is rather unfortunate that we have that going on right now, because you should be able to not have to worry about something not sticking or not working properly. But again, there are ways of working around these. There we go. So no breach once again. So breach is really not sticking at tier 6. So you really can't necessarily always count on breach when doing this. There's also a lot of RNG involved. So if you have to play this event multiple times, that can happen. But once again, this lineup has worked fairly consistently for me. So let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, so now we've jumped into tier 7. So I always, just as a precaution, always use the same exact tactics each individual time, just since it seems to be a system that works. At least for me, it works. It might not always work for everybody, but it's something that I've found through multiple playthroughs that has worked well, on my side at least. So let's go ahead and get some ability block out there if we can. Which we did, which is great. We got ability block, as well as we got some exposes, which is definitely key to be able to push forward and continue pushing and hitting hard. There we go. We got a good block there. So now we're gonna go ahead and pull out the Xanadu Blood, and as it states here, is inflict breach on a target enemy for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resisted. Additionally, inflict defense down on all enemies for 2 turns, which can't be evaded, and grant all scoundrel allies retribution for 2 turns. Now, this ability, although it states that it can't be evaded or resisted, well, it can be, and it most of the time will be, so don't always count on it, but we always try it anyway, just in case, because it did work in the first couple, as you saw there. We're gonna go ahead and run through, and almost got him there. So we're gonna go ahead and keep running at this here and hoping that we can go ahead and pull off the win. even when things don't work out exactly as planned, you can come back and hit for and hit well. So we're gonna go ahead and get some extra buffs out there and try to just power handle these guys if we can. And there we go. So even though sometimes breach does not work as intended, or the abilities don't always work as well, understand it can take a few attempts to get this beaten, especially with RNG, just hoping that things stick or that they'll work exactly as intended. So don't be discouraged if you don't beat it the first time or the 10th time or the 15th time even. I remember a few times when this would come back and I would just sit and play it over and over again, and I was having some issues. But persistence and understanding your kits and understanding your kill order is going to be catamite to your success. So as always, if you like the video, please give me a like or give me a subscribe if you'd like to see other content that I make here. So as always, I appreciate your views, and Skinless is out.